We will Okay, we will move ahead to item 8 then, which is to approve a preliminary strategy for the 2022 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy. So we have Dan Wayne, you're already loaded up. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Chair Watkins and board members. The new greenhouse gas emission reduction strategies need to be tested in preparation for the 2022 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy. And we have some professional hunches on what might work for the region. However, stakeholder consultation and some technical analysis are needed in order to determine how feasible these strategies are and their potential effectiveness in our region. So it's recommended that the board approve a range of strategies that staff can explore over the coming months. We've got 10 preliminary strategies that are specifically mentioned and outlined in my staff report that you can look at. Some of the strategies listed here, they may not be ready for immediate or near-term implementation, but they could be implemented incrementally over time or towards the latter years of the 20-year planning horizon. So as you provide feedback to staff, consider providing the following types of feedback. Number one, direction regarding the specific 10 priorities. You can let us know if there's any particular strategies that you don't want, if there's strategies that need to be modified, or if you have any additional new strategies that we should add to the list, such as autonomous vehicles, toll lanes, or those types of things. Number two, the second thing you can do is you can offer evaluation criteria that staff can use to assess these strategies. And I've included some examples in my staff report on page 5. For example, we might look at strategies and say this strategy provides good bang for the buck, or the potential to attract discretionary grant funds, or direct benefits to disadvantaged communities, or reduced traffic-related injuries and fatalities, these types of things. A third area of potential comment is you can share best practices that you may have observed from other regions that might be transferable to the Shasta region. Again, I've provided some examples of what those could be. One might be the high quality active transportation infrastructure that they have in the city of Davis, or reducing urban sprawl through Butte County's regional conservation plan. Lastly, you may want to share any local challenges that you have at the city or county level that might benefit from SCS strategies. For example, these are also noted on page 5 of the report. Perhaps you would like to use SCS strategies to help address urban blight, homelessness, wildfire threat, those types of things. So I know that's a lot there, and I provided some references in the staff report for each one of these areas that we're looking for comment on, and specific examples of those. Again, those are on page 3, 4, and 5 of the staff report. Happy to answer any questions, and otherwise I'm here to listen to comments in direction that the board has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And we have the 10 items here that Dan has prepared, and I think he's done a lot of work trying to think of all the different possibilities in these 10 items. So we really need the board members to provide some input if you have any comments on these 10 items. So we'll open this up first to the board members. I see you, Kristen, there. Kristen, we'll go there. And then after the board members talk, we'll open it up to any public comments we might have that are watching. So Kristen, you raised your hand first.
Okay, well, I can wait till after the public comments if you prefer. Either way, I'm fine. Okay, I just want to, I appreciate the depth of the presentation, and I really appreciated the attachment A, the previously adopted 2018 CS strategies, the worksheet there. So I'll make two quick comments on related to the city of Reading. That particularly, if you look at the page 1 of it, the attachment A, I just wanted to share with Dan that the city of Reading is working on a spreadsheet that lists all of the affordable housing that's currently either been planned or under construction or recently constructed. It's a very, very detailed Excel spreadsheet that you could, I think it's nearing completion, that probably would be helpful. It would include Market Square, especially since it's been completed and open, and that you could contact for that document. And second, I think that when Reading, the city of Reading Public Works awards the short range transit study, consultant agreement, which unfortunately the RFQ came back without any responses. So they're considering what their alternatives are right now. But the FAIR study and the short range transit study would probably be helpful in this process. I'm hoping there's a tie-in, because I'm hoping that there's a tie-in to the long range plan. It seems like that would be a tie-in to some of these goals and strategies.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, I have a comment. I have more of a story to tell. And Leonard's heard this story, so sorry, Leonard, I repeat myself here. But 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came out of Mass on a Saturday afternoon in Fall River Valley at our little tiny mission church. And there was a car there that it was a Tesla, a real high-end Tesla. And this gentleman came up to me and asked if I knew if there was any charging stations close by. Well, this is the same day where there had been a fire in Bernie next to Pit River Casino. So evidently he had 10 miles left on his car and nowhere to go. And so, especially since I just came out of church, Greg, you can appreciate that, I ended up calling one of our guys and asked Juan to meet me at our shop, and he hooked him up to a welder, and that was just like 4 miles an hour. It took, that's all he could get, and he wasn't going to be able to get any place. I mean, because it's 60, 80 miles away from the next charging station. Anyway, we kept him overnight in our log cabin, and he and his family. He gave he was a doctor, and he had his mother-in-law and his wife and 3 kids. So it was quite an experience for the gentleman, but I just wanted to plant that seed because it is a problem. And I was talking to a friend of ours from the Winters area. He had come up, and he has a sister-in-law, I think, that teaches at UC Davis. And they said one of the unforeseen consequences of this electric cars is that people really aren't using them much for long distance trips because of the lack of accessibility for charging stations. So I just wanted to throw that little anecdote, that story out to you, but luckily he found me, and I felt badly for the poor gentleman, but he was stuck. And the other thing, they tried calling AAA. AAA refused to come get him. The Tesla, whoever is involved with Tesla, they refused to come. He was literally stuck, but we got him going.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else?
Mary, that's the true definition of public service.
Well, and it was Christian. It was Christian. Let's see, I'm trying to undo it was Christian public service, because like I say, I just came out of church, and what choice did I have? But and the man was just, he was so grateful, and I think he really had time to think about it as he stayed overnight, because when he left in the morning, he texted me, he says, I don't know what we would have done without running into you. So, but it really was, it's a story I think that we need to think about, and people need to think about, especially if we want people to start using electric cars more. And I've got 2 kids that each have Teslas. And so that when they come up, they bring their other vehicles or gas powered vehicles just because of that fact. So, we need to think about charging stations in areas, especially that tourism is impacted. So just wanted to throw that out there.
So Mary, did he just need a 220 plug in, or could he have plugged in at anybody's house and charged?
No, he didn't. It was more of a square kind of shape. And so we were able to put it into our welder. Of course, we had to get gasoline in the welder, and it was long and complicated. It was not an easy process, but we did save him. I mean, it was an experience, but it made an impression on me and how if we're going to have electric cars, we need to have charging stations in remote areas for people like him.
Well, maybe in the meantime, Teslas need to pull a gas generator behind them in case they get to Bernie and can't recharge.
So all he wanted to do was see Bernie Falls.
Anybody, I think that we need to provide some comment back here to Dan Wayne on these 10 items. So anybody else have some thoughts first? Well, I'll go ahead then and list a couple of items. This is getting into vehicle miles traveled, Dan, and it's talking about how we mitigate for vehicle miles traveled. And I think one of the things we need to take credit in this document for remote work. In strategy number 10, you just mentioned remote work, but I think we should emphasize that telecommuting to work and new businesses have a method. We should take a lot more credit for reducing vehicle miles traveled through the remote work. And if you're looking under CEQA and somebody's studying what is the impact of putting a new business in, we ought to have an aspect that says that this new business is going to permit certain employees to work from home, and we could get more there. And the idea number 8, that a developer may purchase a credit, I believe that's really a way to, and when we first start out on this, that a person or developer is proposing a new business, and instead of reducing the vehicle miles traveled directly, they may be able to pay into a fund that would help buy e-bikes or storage for e-bikes or something else that would promote a reduction in car travel. So that would be a good idea to capture this credit idea. And then you talk about secure bicycle parking, and I think that's really key. There are people, if you spend $3,000 on an electric bike, when you get to your destination, you're not going to want to just chain it up with a padlock that somebody could cut fairly easy. So this secure bike parking would do a lot to promote e-bikes. And in a minute, we'll open up if there's any of the public that would like to comment on this item, because I think we need to have the best document we can and get all the input that might be out there for this document. So do any other board members have any items or any comment on these 10 items? I'll open it up to the public then. Do we have any publics that are have joined our meeting that would like to comment on this item? Amy, do you see anybody?
None, Greg.
Okay, I know like Ann Thomas locally has a bicycle share program. So I was thinking she might have come in, but and then the electric scooters around town where you can use your iPhone to pay for them and pick them up and follow them. And the scooter, it seems like that's a good way to help people around town where the GPS can find that scooter later. It looks like that's something, Dan, that we ought to be capturing in here as a way just for short trips around town to have this ride sharing with scooters might be something that we should promote more in this document. So anybody else?
While you're thinking, one area that I mentioned before that I think would be helpful are any local priorities or needs or objectives that where we could kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. I mean, yes, we're trying to reduce vehicle miles traveled and the greenhouse gas emissions associated with that. But a lot of these types of strategies, they're things that like the downtown projects that we can use to revitalize urban areas or to provide additional services to disadvantaged communities and the homeless and things like that. So if there are any, that would be a way, a lens or an angle that we can approach these strategies to help address some of your more pressing or urgent needs at the local level that as council members that you're so familiar with.
Okay, the last thing I'd mention is that when you started out, you say strategies that work together to affect travel behavior. And boy, that's kind of, there's a red flag that comes up in my book thinking about, what are my travel behaviors that you might want to change? But it's I guess that's where it's going if you're really looking at vehicle miles traveled. Okay, we will move on then to the next item. Thank you, Dan. I think you put a lot of work and thinking into this, and we're going to be held accountable in the future.
Thank you.
So we are on item 9. We're going to accept the Caltrans Strategic Partnership Grant Award for $291,000 for the North State Intercity Bus to Rail Program. So Eamon Johnson, are you here? There you are.
Thank you, Chair Watkins. It's quite the mouthful. Yeah, so this item it's a pretty brief one. I have a couple slides that I'll run through quickly here. All right. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we see them.
Great. So as Chair Watkins said, this is to accept a Caltrans Strategic Partnership Grant Award of $819,000 for the North State Intercity Bus to Rail Plan. The objective of the plan, again, is to look at better intercity transportation options between the North State, specifically in Reading to start, and Sacramento and or the Bay Area along the I-5 corridor. As a reminder, the timeline of the project is as follows. We submitted the grant application in February. We just heard very recently, last week, that we were awarded the grant. And today staff is recommending that the board accepts this award. Next month, after we meet with Caltrans, work could begin on the project. And although we are hoping to finish the project sooner, the final completion date would be in the spring of 2024. And the recommendation is to approve the resolution 21-12, which is attached to the staff report, and accept the award, as well as direct staff to begin the procurement of consultant services. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the grant or the award.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board members?
Eamon, can you please stop your screen share now?
Sure.
I have a question. Did I see correctly? This wouldn't be implemented till 2024?
No, sorry. That's just the final completion date that the project would have to be finished by. We're hoping to finish it sooner.
Okay, great. Do you have an estimated timeline when it might be available to the public?
I think probably early 2023 at the latest.
Okay. Okay, great.
Anybody else? I would just offer one comment then, that when you're talking about evaluating the timing for potential future daytime passenger rail service through Reading, that's going to be long-term. That's probably not going to happen before 2024, but it's a good long-term objective.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. The Butte County Association of Governments, BCAG, was just awarded funding under the same program for a daytime passenger rail strategic plan for bringing daytime passenger rail to Butte County. And so this effort by SRTA would coincide with that, with theirs down in Butte County. But it just shows that the state is prioritizing this type of planning.
So to get to Butte County, that would be the San Joaquin rail service being extended up that way?
Yeah, I think they'd be evaluating those options with all with operators like San Joaquin's Joint Powers Authority to see what's the most feasible.
Okay, we need a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
Schrader moves approval of staff.
Okay, it's been moved by Schrader and seconded by Rickard. Amy, a
Take
vote?
roll. Board Member Commenti,
Yes.
Board Member Rickard,
Yes.
Board Member Modi,
Yes.
Board Member Browning,
Yes.
Board Member Schrader. Board Member Schrader,
Yes, Kristen.
I'm unmuted. I said yes.
oh, I didn't hear it, sorry. And Board Member Watkins,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to item 10 to accept the Caltrans Strategic Partnership Grant of $500,000 for State Route 273 Northern Section Multi-Modal Trend Corridor Plan. So Michael Hooker. Mike.
Helps if I unmute myself. Good afternoon, Chair Watkins and fellow board members. I have before you a resolution 2113 to accept a California Sustainable Transportation Grant Award of $500,000 towards the State Route 273 Northern Section Multimodal Corridor Plan. Very exciting that we got this grant. We heard that Caltrans District 2 has been tentatively awarded a grant as well. So we will, if the board so approves, combine our efforts on the consultant and move forward under procuring one consultant to minimize costs and overhead and that sort of thing. It's really exciting because it's been a long time since anyone has taken kind of a holistic, comprehensive look at this corridor. We know there are some issues that need to be addressed. And so it's just a really good time for our region and for the community.
So Michael, you're going to explain a little bit about what the grant's going to do along 273, just real briefly?
Sure, it's just going to be a comprehensive look at the corridor to examine the what's working and what isn't. Essentially, we have some idea of some of the current challenges, like there is a space constraint with the Union Pacific overcrossing, but the goal of this isn't to go in with any preconceived notions. It's really to take a comprehensive and fresh look. And so, there's been things in the past that have been mentioned by other plans and documents that we could take a look at. But mainly, we want to hear from the board and our stakeholders and the public as to what we want to do. So some of the things that have been mentioned would be improving pedestrian access at the Union Pacific overcrossing. There had been some talk about looking at reversion to two-way streets downtown or putting in a roundabout at Cypress and Market and Pine, but it's really kind of wide open at this point. So any input the board may have on strategies that have worked in other regions or that sort of thing would be more than welcome. And there'll be multiple opportunities for the board to weigh in throughout the process.
Any comment from board members?
I just want to add that I appreciated the members of SRTA and the other local officials and Caltrans all doing that bike ride. I thought that was really informative. we rode our bikes at about 5:30, I think, on from Breslau to just north of the Market Street Bridge over the Sacramento River. And you could see where some of the challenges are just in that one section. It was really informative. I look forward to this work. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very exciting. 2 for 2.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
I'll make a recommendation, move approval of staff recommendations, sorry.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
It was moved by Schrader and seconded by Rickert. And you'll be coming back to us with your consultant, with your package where you'll be putting it out for a consultant to bid on what services they would put for an RFP.
Yes, sir. We're going to work with Caltrans and develop a scope of work and then get an RFP out there as soon as possible. So,
Okay, see, Amy, if you do a roll call on this, please.
Okay. Board Member Commenti,
yes.
Board Member Rickert,
Yes.
Board Member Modi,
Yes.
Board Member Browning,
Yes.
and Board Member Schrader,
Yes.
Board Member Watkins.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Michael. So item 11, approve the fiscal year 21-22 comprehensive budget. So we have Jessica. There you are. Except you're muted.
I am muted and my camera's off apparently. Sorry about that. Good afternoon. Hello. I'm really excited about this comprehensive budget. We've seen a few iterations as we've gone through our quarterly reports. It follows the same format flow, but now we are looking at a budgeting of the next fiscal year for 21-22. So we are looking for input from the board, specifically with formatting, any information that you do not see on here that you'd like to see, maybe any items that the notes maybe don't give full picture of, so that we can continue to shape and mold this report to be more informative. It's important that it's comprehensive and that it gives a whole picture of what SRTA is doing as a whole. And when it comes to revenues, expenditures, etc., we want you to be able to see everything that's going in and out. So it's a really exciting year coming up. We are increasing our budget from last year by 28% in revenue and 17% in expenditures, which is great because that leaves us nicely balanced. Of course, these are all estimates based on allocations that have come out for the coming fiscal year. But overall, we have a lot of exciting things coming down the pike, and we've considered those here. So really just looking for input or any questions that the board may have on what they'd like to see. We want this to be an informative document for you. So we have this budgeting for the year. We're asking for you to approve the budget itself. And also being factored in is our new indirect cost allocation plan for 21-22. Typically, this would come a little later. Historically, it hasn't been done this quickly, but we were able to get it done, and we've gotten a good draft, and it's almost finalized. And the quicker that we can get that, we call it the ICAP, the quicker we can get that ICAP rate approved by Caltrans, the sooner that we can bill for the reimbursements from Caltrans of those expenditures in the fiscal year. So it's very important that we get this ICAP to Caltrans as soon as possible. So we're asking that Chair Watkins can sign the certification for that ICAP rate as soon as the calculation is finalized, so I can get that over to Caltrans and start billing against that rate. If you have any questions about that, you can let me know via email or what have you, but we'd like him to be able to sign that prior to October's meeting because it is almost ready to be signed. And I believe that's it. So if anybody has any direction on what you'd like to see or what you like about the report, we're just going to keep moving forward. And you'll see the same type of format with each quarterly report as we've seen these last 2 quarters in the 2021 year. And thank you very much.
Any comments or suggestions by any board member? I like that you boiled it down to 5 pages, Jessica.
Really, really small print, but I got it.
Okay, we need a motion as for the staff recommendations 1 and 2.
This is Chementi. I'll make a motion to approve staff recommendation 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Chementi and seconded by Browning. So Amy?
Board Member Chementi,
Yes.
Board Member Rickert,
Yes.
Board Member Modi,
Yes.
Board Member Browning,
Yes.
Board Member Schrader,
Yes.
and Board Member Watkins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that takes us to item 14. Caltrans, Eric Orr, are you been promoted up here?
You need to, you got it.
Yeah, did you just call on me? My screen went blank for a second.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, here I am. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not item 13, right? I'm item 14. My name's Eric Orr, and I'm a project manager from Caltrans. And what I'm presenting today is what is Caltrans doing in terms of construction, what we're planning on doing, and what we're actually designing. So let's go to the first one. And I have these maps I'm going to present today. It's one more, there you go. And these maps, Amy's going to make sure that the board members can get a copy of them so you can look at them. And if you have questions, there's names and phone numbers you can call. But what we want you to do is just be aware of all the projects that we're doing. So we're going to start right now with the projects that are in construction. So here's a map and you can see the numbers there. And if you go to the next page, there it is. This is what the numbers correspond to. So I'll go through a few projects just so we can familiarize ourselves with the map. No, stay the next page, that'd be better. Thank you. And if you have questions, you can ask a question. So the first project I want the board to see is the Razzle project. That's a 3-year construction project, the Reading to Anderson 6 lane, and we're almost done. It's awesome. That job started 3 years ago. This is our 3rd construction year, and you probably all have gone through it. We're on our last phase. It takes 3 phases when you have 2 lanes of traffic going over the bridges, and that's why it took so long. But now we're in our last phase. They've already placed the girders. We expect construction to complete this year. By the way, it's the other $132 million project here in Chatham County. The first $132 million project, it was kind of interesting, it was the same amount, was the courthouse there in downtown, and we beat them. We're going to be done with ours before them. I thought this was funny. So anyway, that's things have gone well in Razzle. We've worked with the contractor, so the northern limits of the project, now you can go the speed limit, where before we had that speed limit throughout the whole section of the job, and sometimes people were frustrated keeping at a lower speed limit, but we're able to finish the northern section. And so now we just have that area around Anderson to finish. Okay, some other notable projects there are the Sims Craig Bridge replacement. Those are those 2 I-5 bridges kind of near Dunsmuir at Sims Road and Craigview Drive. They were actually affected by the pandemic. We were going to have those projects done last year. What happened, when the pandemic first came out, and as you know, everything shut down, everyone, we had to stay home. And so the girder provider could not provide the girders for this bridge, for the bridges. And we were gonna actually not have the project, but then as you remember, things start opening up again. And the contractor said, well, it looks like I can get my girders. So They were able to do the project, but we had to go an extra year because it took that long to get the girders. Let's see, is there any other ones I want to mention? At this point, I think that's good enough now. Is there any other, what I want to also point out, you see the project manager names. Mine is EDO for Eric Orr. If you have any questions, you don't have to call those other project managers. You can call me and I can get those questions answered. You can see the columns. It says when you begin construction, how much the projects cost, who the project manager is with those initials. If it's SB1 funded, multiple counties, a lot of questions can be answered by the project manager. And the last thing I want to mention on this page is the 169 million worth of investment that we have in Shasta County. It's a big number. Is there any more questions about Shasta County projects before I move on to projects that are in project development?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Eric, we normally provide a handout to the board members when we meet in person on this, and can you email that to us and we will provide it to the board members so they have that for future use?
Yeah, Amy's going to do it.
We already-
They got it.
You have it?
Yeah, we received an email this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, great. I did not know that. Thank you.
Great.
I didn't know that.
You didn't have that?
No.
Okay. Did it come by separate email? There's a little bit of confusion on that.
Amy sent the email. I got the email at 2:43.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay, so if we have any questions, Eric, we should just call you. Like, I'd like to know more about
Yes,
the culverts in Shasta Dam Boulevard. So,
exactly.
I have one quick question, Greg, if that's okay. This is Mary.
yes, Mary.
Yes, on the Lake Britain Bridge Rail. So since it looks like you are the person in charge of that project, could you kind of explain it to me a little bit? It's in District 3, so I was curious.
Okay, that one I don't know that much about actually, but I can let you know that there was some damage that was done by a truck out there. It hit the railing.
Right.
And they had to prefabricate it, and they are putting it up right now, and that should be done by the end of the year. I mean, not the end of the year, but before fall hits.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. That's what a director's order is, by the way, is when you have emergency damage and we have to do it immediately and not do the normal process of planning, design, and construction.
Okay, so anybody will get hold of you based upon this email that was just sent out to us.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
exactly. Yeah, and you
Okay.
can call the other project managers down there if you see the initials.
Right.
But you
At
see
the
mine, and
bottom.
I can make sure that we'll answer all your questions. I have 2 more maps to present, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move to the projects in development. Okay. Next, same idea. There's the map where they're located. And so we'll go to the next spreadsheet. Okay, now we talked about Razzle with the last project. Well, the next phase of improvements to get 6 lanes on I-5 is the Fix 5 Cascade Gateway project. And that's would be a 6 lane of I-5 from Highway 44 to Oasis interchange. And that would be the last improvement needed, that we would have 6 lanes clear from Cottonwood to the city of Shasta Lake. Just like Razzle, the biggest hurdle that we have in this project is finding funds. The normal funding process that we have, we just don't have enough, so we're asking for grants. As a matter of fact, we've asked for, and I'm not sure I know the total names. We've asked for a $15 million earmark for the stimulus. We're asking for a $25 million grant from a federal grant from the RAISE program. And we're probably going to ask another 20 million from the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. All those are not guarantees, but we're doing our best to write the grants. As a matter of fact, the RAISE grant, the federal grant, we're going to be getting the application in a little later next month. And we're all working hard to get that application in. We've had some successful applications, for example, the TCEP to do the project development, but the construction part, we still have to get the grant. And that's going to be a big hurdle. As a matter of fact, we've been told that our Fix 5 Cascade Gateway project needs to be more transformative. The old way that we had, for example, a Razzle project, just putting in an extra lane, the world's changed, and adding capacity is not what the grant writers want to see. They want to see transformative things out there. So we're actually going to be adding to the scope of the Fix 5 Gateway project. We want to put in a multi-use path that parallels I-5 there from right at 44, you know, where the bike lane is that goes parallel to I-5 and comes out behind Best Buy. If you're familiar with that, it goes north. We want to actually take that bike lane and bring it all the way down to Lake Boulevard, paralleling I-5. That way we have, you know, more than just freeway traffic gets to enjoy the improvements, but also multimodal, and we provide movement for more than just autos. And another thing we like to do on that project is manage the freeway a little better during emergencies. We all recognized when traffic backed up, when I-5 was closed, clear to Anderson with trucks backing up. And so we're going to try to manage that a little better by having trucks stay in the leftmost lanes and then allow.
The rightmost, I hope.
No, it's the leftmost actually.
It's the leftmost, huh?
The leftmost, and then the rightmost lane.
The exit, huh?
The exit lane, right? Through traffic, not through traffic, but local traffic, if they have to, they can use that lane in emergency vehicles. So we're going to try to manage that a little better. There'll be programs within Caltrans to manage that. So that's some other ideas. You were talking about ZEV earlier on, and that's some other ideas that we're looking that maybe we can add some ZEV to that too, to make it more competitive for those funding programs we talked about. And we're another partner project that Caltrans is doing with the Fix 5 Gateways. We call it our Cascade Shop project, and Caltrans is putting 25 million towards the same stretch of road to improve all the shop eligible features. For example, some of the bridges need more clearance from the highway, which would help trade corridors and other situations like that. You know, and just normal things you do with shop money, with maintaining the highway, the pavement, the culverts, et cetera, the signs. So that's we're partnering with SRTA to help find the funds for that project, and the shop way is one way you can help partner. Any questions on that project before I move on to others?
Anybody have any questions there? I just have one, Eric, on this bike lane that would parallel I-5 from Reading out to Shasta Lake. Would that be a two-way bike line on one side? It wouldn't be a one-way bike lane on each side, would it?
It would be, it doesn't go to Shasta Lake, it just goes to Lake Boulevard. Maybe I wasn't heard. It goes from the Highway 44 interchange to Lake Boulevard.
Okay,
it's a multi-use two-directional path. And it's just on the east side of the freeway.
Okay, that is a good corridor that a bicycle would be able to handle. And there are no restrictions on the e-bikes using that?
That's correct. And I think you talked about scooters too, and they'll probably be able to use it too. Another project that kind of relates to that on this board is called the Lake Boulevard Rehab project. And we're doing another complete streets on that project too. That's on Highway 299, Lake Boulevard from North Market. It goes clear out to Bella Vista, but the portion from North Market to I-5 on Highway Lake Boulevard, that's going to have some complete streets improvements too. So in one sense, the complete streets that you hear from the Fix 5 Cascade Gateway project will actually connect to this project too. And so we're trying to create a whole, what would you call it? Forget the word now, but you know, the continuity between one project and another. And also there's an ATP project, a separate project. That's a planning project. I'm not sure if we got grant funds. It's close. That goes from there clear out to Shasta College. And we're also partnering with the county and the city on that project. Not sure if it has funding, but it's close, I've heard.
Eric, I have a. this is Mary. Yes, on project number 31, the Dersh Road culverts. Do you know exactly where along Dersh Road those are?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. That'd be
Sure.
great.
Okay. And then speaking of multimodal uses, we also have the South Market Street ADA project that goes from Wyndham Lane to California Street. And I think Christian was with me on the bike project. We were talking about that. We're on both sides of Highway 273. We're taking away the parking and it's going to become a bike lane. And also, as I said, it's an ADA project, so we're improving the sidewalks there. So we're considering needs of all the traveling public, the pedestrians, the bicycles, and the autos. And the other big change you'll see out there is right south of the rescue mission. We're going to be putting in a big retaining wall because if you notice, there's a mountain that kind of comes right down to the pavement there. We're going to be moving, not a mountain, but moving a hillside back with a retaining wall there to make enough room for the sidewalk and the bike lane. So those are some of the projects in development. Any questions on those?
Anybody have any questions?
Okay, and then just notice again, there's we're putting 151 million again into Shasta County. It's great we can do that. And by the way, when I say that, a big part of that is Cascade Gateway and SRTA. A lot of that money with the 64 million comes from SRTA's efforts, both in the STIP and also getting these grants. So we could move to the last one, and that's the planning projects. And we'll just move to the next screen there. There you go. Now the planning projects, the further out you get, the less certain we are of it. The 22, you see the 22 projects, the 25 projects, we're a little more certain, but none of these have been programmed yet. And once they get programmed, then we definitely know that they're going to happen. We're trying to get them ready to be programmed. We call them PIDs, project initiation documents. And so these are our kind of long range projects that we have in the hopper, what we want to do. For example, the downtown Reading CAPM, number 60, there's going to be a lot of complete streets improvements on that one, but that's one's way out. For some of them that are sooner, we talked about the Cascade shop. That's going to be part of the Fix 5 Gateway project. And let's see any other ones here. We have some culvert projects on I-5. We have paving out by Shingletown. We call it Shingle Station because it's around Shingletown to Old Station. But anyway, these are all of our projects that we're just getting the PID documents or going to, but they're kind of out there at this point. And we'll probably be presenting them later as we get closer to delivery. One big project that I'd really love to talk about, but I can't because the person after me is going to have a great presentation, is the Pitt River Bridge. You're going to forget my whole presentation after you hear his presentation because it's really exciting. So is there any questions on this?
No, but I want to thank you for putting all this information together. I think it's very helpful for local officials to see the scope of, Caltrans work and how it's laid out. I appreciate your annual, I think they're annual presentations.
Thank you.
Oh, we finally see your picture, Eric. Thank you.
I thought I was just not on. I thought you saw me, but I couldn't see myself. And then I saw the
No, all we saw were your handouts, and we understand that you sent them out 15 minutes before the meeting. So thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
So as Eric mentioned, we'll move ahead to the one he thought was most exciting, and that is the presentation from Caltrans regarding the Pitt River Bridge. We have Dale Widener. So we promote him and the Pitt River Bridge come up. We need to see the picture of it before the lake filled.
Dale, you are muted.
Yeah.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we do.
You don't see my picture. I've got my camera up, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Anyway, thank you guys. My name is Dale Widener. I'm also a project manager with Caltrans, and I'll be talking about the Pitt River Bridge today. So I appreciate the chance to share what's going on with the Pitt River Bridge with you guys. So thank you so much for that. And Michael's going to help me go ahead and get started around this one. Michael, can you go ahead and get it started? There we go. Thank you. And go ahead and next, please. So basically, why are we talking about the Pitt River Bridge and why are we talking about it now? What's interesting about the Pitt River Bridge, we actually don't own it. It's owned by the federal government. It's owned by the Bureau of Reclamation, and when they built the reservoir and the dam, they built the bridge, and we share that with the railroad. And it's actually the only federally owned interstate highway bridge in the entire country. Interesting. That we share the use of the bridge with the railroad and Amtrak, and we have a maintenance agreement that we have through the Bureau of Reclamation that extends to 2040. And the U.S. Department of Recreation does not want to own the bridge beyond 2040. So once that date sunsets, then we're going to be having to do something else. Next, please. We all know where the bridge is. It's north of Reading and on Shasta Lake. Next, please. Here's the plans from way back when they were developing the bridge. For those of you who've seen plans before, the bunch of different views there. There's a top view, like if you're looking down from the sky out near the top, and then there's what's called an elevation view from the front. The bridge itself is about 3,600 feet long, and it's a double-decker bridge, as you all know. There's the highway on the top and the railroad on the bottom. It turns out that it's about 60 feet actually between the highway road deck and the railroad deck. So it's quite a bit of, the scale there is tremendous. Next, please. Some of the deals going on with this particular bridge, it is in very deep water. Of course, these are construction shots long before the lake was filled. But that 350 feet height from that one pier in the waterway there is critical. It affects quite a bit of engineering decisions. For instance, if that was built today, it would be beyond a world record on how deep that is. Believe it or not, the deepest bridge pier in the world is only 242 feet of water. And if we had to build that bridge pier today, it would be in over 350 feet of water. Next, and that of course affects lots of engineering decisions on this bridge. Next, please. Here's back when the bridge was being built back in the day. The original Pitt River Bridge is there in the lower side. Next, please. Of course, there's some other historical photos. Look at the scale on the right, how big those members are and the size of the people involved. Next, please. So some more on the background. Of course, like I said before, it is owned by the Federal Bureau of Reclamation, and we do share it with the railroad. And as many of you know, the Bureau of Reclamation is considering raising the level of the dam to store more water at the lake. And we want to make sure that it's fully understood by everybody that there really is truly no nexus between the bridge and the elevation change on the lake. There's no connecting those two things. They're just completely separate. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Next, and to highlight on that, next slide, please. Here, I like baseball. I like stadiums. So here's a baseball stadium. The deal is, many of you have been down to Oakland to watch an A's game or a Raiders game, something like that. What I want to point out here is that they share one stadium, but it's a baseball team and a football team. So if the A's change their manager or they change their uniform, it doesn't have anything to do with the Raiders. Same thing if the Raiders move to Las Vegas or they get a new quarterback, it doesn't affect the Athletics. Same thing here with our bridge and the dam raise at Shasta Dam. What we're doing with the bridge has nothing to do with the dam, and what's going on with the dam has nothing to do with the bridge. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we always have what's called a need and purpose on projects, and so I'm going to actually kind of read this one directly here. So the needs at the Pitt River Bridge and approach roadways include deficiencies in maintenance, operations, safety, functional use. And in 2040, you see the highlighted in red there, the joint use agreement expires and that the bridge owner, the federal government, does not want to own the bridge after 2040. Next, please. So our purpose of our project is to develop a reliable long-term crossing over Shasta Lake that addresses the future operations, maintenance, and structural needs. Long-term beyond 2040, that the interstate highway bridge, specifically the interstate bridge, is not owned by the federal government. Next, please. So I'm going to expand a little bit about on the operations side of things. As everybody knows, it has very narrow shoulders. There are virtually no shoulders. The bikes technically are allowed to cross the bridge, but it's not, I wouldn't do it. Anyways, that's other things going on there. Thanks. Next, please. Going to briefly expand on the railroad side of things. Here's the map of the railroads in the Western United States. The red are the the red are the Union Pacific railroads, and the green are the Burlington Northern Railroad lines. And that you can see our Pitt River Bridge over there on the left. Next, please. What we've done is to figure out what happens if our bridge is not crossable. For instance, the Delta fire a few years ago, we had some issues with that and we couldn't cross the bridge. And here's the detours that are involved. Our highways, it's almost a 60-mile detour to go around through Highway 89 and 299 via Lake Britain. It's about 60 miles there. If the rail can't go over that bridge, let's say the red line there, that shows the LA detour. If the railroad had to detour around the Pitt River Bridge through Salt Lake City, believe it or not, and that'd be about a 500-mile extra detour distance. And then what if they had to do it from the Oakland side of things? That would be an almost 1,000-mile detour to get through our area up to Portland. What we're saying basically—
Dale, a question on that. If
yeah,
there's a Feather River Railroad that goes up towards Greenville, shouldn't that be showing on here?
That was the previous map. If you could show that previous one, that's the Burlington Northern line. Technically, there's some significant differences between the quality of the highway, quality of the rail line there. That's that green line there that you see just east there. That's that one. Their rail line is, it's kind of like the interstate highway to the to a two-lane highway, kind of a difference there.
It has a lower speed.
Mostly
it has
in
a
speed.
Lower railroad speed on it, doesn't it?
Partly that. Also, there's different tunnel clearances. There's a lot going on there. So that's on a long-term detour. They would really have to go through Salt Lake. Good point, though. Thank you. Next slide, back again, and then the next one. And so maintenance, I'm going to highlight a few things here. It's really a problematic bridge to maintain with the railroad there. They have, it's very expensive and very difficult maintenance situation with the railroad for the last 80 years. They just have a different set of doing things. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Structurally, we have some other things I'm going to highlight there. Basically the deck has been replaced a few times recently, and it continues to be a problem with our deck, and some other things structurally that we're concerned about. Go ahead, next slide, please. I'm trying to go kind of fast on this as best I can. I don't want to dwell too much in the details. But right now, here's the aerial view of the lake, looking straight down from the top. Redding's off to the left. Oregon is off to the right. If you see there, that yellow line is partly we're showing the existing railroad tunnels. Believe it or not, there are portions of 5 railroad tunnels on that photo, starting at the left and going through to the right. You see our main existing bridge right there in the middle with the dash line on top of it. That's the existing option 1. You see the Bridge Bay Marina off to the left over there. Remember, there's an interchange just on the south side of the bridge, exit 690, exit 692 is just on the north side. And what we're also showing is one of the alignments that we're considering for a highway-only bridge, where we'd start basically where we are on the south side of the lake, but kind of wow out a little bit on the north side. Next, please. So we've been looking at a lot of engineering solutions for the bridges itself. And here's if we had to upgrade and fix what we've got, which is always just, we start with that. This is like what we call a section view, where we're looking at the bridge, the kind of the typical section thing. The gray dashed lines are where the existing bridge are, and the heavy red lines as if we had to add some more elements to the bridge. And so what we're showing there is if we had to add some width to the bridge, there'd be a new set of trusses on the right, a new set of trusses on the left, and they would connect with some X bracing. And at the bottom there, the big piers would end up having a what they call a hammerhead at the top, where we'd add some more elements to the top so the truss could set on. And what we're this is the feasibility of building something like this is in great question. So I'm not sure we could actually do this, but anyway, that's what would fix the existing would look like. And it's important to note that this does not deal with the maintenance issues that we have. And so it does technically does not meet purpose and need. Next one, please. Option 2 is if we built a highway only bridge separate from the existing bridge. And what this is showing is what if it was a suspension bridge? Here's what it would look like. Very similar to what we built up there at the Antlers Bridge that was just completed a few years ago on the northern part of the lake here. The highway width is the same as we did up there. On this one, we're also able to add a multi-use path on one side, a 12-foot wide path where the bikers and peds could go both directions, like Eric was talking about previously, but there'd be both directions on one side on this one. Key to the whole thing is no railroad here. This is highway only. Next slide, please. So here's what a little artist rendering would look like. We're on the north side of the lake, exit 692 area, looking towards the south. So Redding's beyond the hill there. So here's what we've shown there. If you look closely, that bridge has actually got some new panels added to it. And the pier, top of the piers have the concrete hammerheads added to it. Here's what it would look like if we had the upgrade existing feature added. Go ahead, next slide, please. And this is a segmental bridge, and that's the bridge type that we built at Antlers, you know, where they built concrete segments out and out. And what we have here, we're almost world record span if we did that here, about 850 feet length. But if we built a conventional segmental bridge here, we would have world record depth in the piers in the lake. Makes it very problematic, especially since the lake is not only deep, but it also has steep sides. Next slide, please. Another bridge type, I'm not showing you all the bridge types we consider, but here's some of them. Another one, this is called a cable stay bridge. You guys might have heard of that kind of bridge construction before. This is when the cables directly connect to the towers themselves. And as we do it here, the towers would be out in the water somewhat. And so there'd be some depth there. But the main span here would be a little over 2,600 feet long. And at that length, it would be the largest cable stay bridge in the Western Hemisphere if we did something like that. So next slide, please. Here we also considered a segmental bridge on a different alignment. You know, when the water gets a little lower, you guys can see the some little ridges that we could possibly do an alignment on. Still super deep water, long spans. Another thing we consider. Next slide, please. Same idea on that other alignment, but with a different bridge type. This is actually called a concrete arch type. Lot of issues engineering wise on this one as well. Next slide, please. And so this is kind of leader in the clubhouse, a suspension bridge. Going on to the next slide, and I'll show you some more on that one as well. So this is a cool look, isn't it? So Mount Shasta is in the distance on the north there, looking at peeking over the mountain range. And this is what's called a suspension bridge, Golden Gate Bridge, similar look. This is a single span suspension bridge where the suspenders are only between the two towers, and behind the towers, it would be what's called a segmental bridge, just like at Antlers. So between the towers, we do a suspension bridge. Behind the towers, a segmental bridge. The reason we would change construction types is we have to add some curves at the end on either side. This bridge here is showing on the south side there, the new alignment would pass about 100 feet higher than the top of that railroad. We talked about the railroad before. So the highway bridge right there at the end of the tower is about 100 feet higher than the top of the railroad tunnel at that location. It turns out the railroad is a big component of how we design this feature. One of the things I want to point out there is that the bridge towers are at the edge of the water. It turns out deep water construction is very risky. It costs lots of money, costs lots of time. In fact, the Antlers Bridge, it took almost a full 3 extra years to get out of the water. But by putting this right at the water's edge, we eliminate most of that portion of the risk. The color of the bridge, we chose that to be, obviously it's all under future consideration, but that happens to be attempting to match the color of manzanita brush. You know, there's lots of manzanita up there. The like dark brown or purple is what you might see the manzanita. So anyway, that we happen to pick that color. It's up for discussion, of course. Next slide, please. So here's how this would compare to the Golden Gate Bridge. Actually, depending on which alignment we use, our main span would be between 80 to 90% as big as the main span at the Golden Gate Bridge. This is a big deal. About 3,450 feet to 3,800 feet long for the main span. And the Golden Gate Bridge, as you see there, is about 4,200 feet long. And as you can see here, it's a single span suspension. Question? Question? I'm sorry. So anyway, it's the bridge tower is there, but so it's between 80 to 90% as big as the Golden Gate Bridge. Next slide, please. So while we're looking here, this is another view of the top. What's also going to happen on this one, we have to have a major contractor's staging area on the north side of the lake, major contractor staging area on the south side of the lake. And once the project's over and those guys go home, we could convert those into perhaps vista points to look at the bridge. Go to the next slide, please. For instance, this is up at the north side of the bridge. Off to the left there, you can see the bridge tower kind of with the blue part in there. That's the tower. And off to the right would be what was the construction staging area, what could someday eventually turn into perhaps a vista point where the bike path would connect back and forth. We told you that there'd be a joint use path on one side of the bridge. And so it turns out if any of you have been down to the Golden Gate Bridge, they have vista points on either end of the bridge as well. It turns out this one here, the distance between our vista point and the tower is about half the distance as it is at the Golden Gate Bridge. So it'd be right on top of the towers. Next slide, please. And there'd be a similar thing on the south where we'd have a chance to have a very closely set vista point just to the south of the towers. And you see those couple of things that are in red there, just behind the towers, that we actually have to angle the cables that connect to the bridge. We have to angle them away so that they don't interfere with the railroad tunnel. We have to do that little tweak on the construction to avoid the railroad tunnel. Next slide, please. So anyway, what happens to the existing bridge if there's a new one built for highway only use? The railroad will stay on the existing bridge. What it'll be done, it'll be converted to a railroad only bridge. Most likely we'll take the bridge deck off, even though it actually does provide some protection to the trusses, protection to the tracks. It's a roof basically. So it may or may not make the most sense to take that deck off. We may leave it there, we may take it off. But anyway, it would be upgraded to last 50 to 75 years. But it would stay in place as it is. Next slide, please. So some of the feedback we've already had from our stakeholders and others, the railroad obviously would like whatever's the least impactful to them. FHWA is a big partner in this and they're 100% in support of what's going on so far. Reclamation, same thing, they're 100% of support of what's been going on. Forest Service, this of course is on federal land with the park and National Recreation Area technically. They would like, of course, to have the limit to the impacts to recreation and the environment. Tribes themselves are not necessarily a partner, they're a government type entity. They are aware of the need and we've been meeting with them on a intermittent basis. They'll be meeting with them more again in the future. And our congressman supports the project as well. Let's see. Next slide, please. So our current status, we've been meeting, we've had some funding from the federal government, the Federal Highway Administration, actually Central Federal Lands. We've been meeting on a monthly basis with FHWA, USBR, and Caltrans. And just this summer, we started meeting also with the railroad and the Forest Service as well. We're starting the development of a project initiation document, which is what we call a PID. Our 30% scope meeting with our management team will happen tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And we'll be working towards a full, what we call a PSR PDS PID by the end of next summer. That's going on right now. We're going public. This meeting here is one of them. So now this is open to the public now. People know about this starting today, actually. So it's kind of exciting about that. And the structures folks in Sacramento are doing some technical studies and we're doing all the regular project initiation documents type stuff here in the district. Next slide, please. Here's some of the stuff, cool stuff, what the structures guys have come up with. This is like a structure model of the bridge. Next slide, please. Here's the tower, nearly 600 feet tall. Like I said, between 80 to 90% as big as the Golden Gate Bridge, depending on what alignment we choose. Next slide, please. Some of the other things, cool stuff from our structures folks. There's a whole bunch of different things we're showing you there. On the left is each segment, they're trying to make as big a segment as they can to ease in construction. For those of you who might remember the Sundial Bridge, it shipped down the highway, big segments on the highway a few years ago. This would be the similar thing. How big of a segment can we create to ship and still ship on the highway or on the rail lines to get it there? And as you can see, this one here is about 130 feet wide by about 23 feet, and then as deep as about 11.5 feet. So we're trying to figure out how big a piece we can build, say in Seattle or in Oakland or something like that, and get it to our location. Turns out building a big bridge in the mountains is a lot harder than building a big bridge by the ocean. Getting the material to the site is tough. Next slide, please. More things. This is like a model view of what the bridge, the existing bridge is not shown here, but what we're showing is that's the tower, the big tower there on the right is our South Shore Tower. And on the very bottom there, you can kind of see the tunnel kind of behind it. Right there, that's the railroad tunnel. And so again, from the top of the tunnel to our highway is about 100 feet. Next slide, please. So here's what's coming up with our next steps. We are working on that project initiation document. As I said, we are going public. This particular project will probably have at least one public meeting where we'll go fully public and people will be able to weigh in on things. We're going to be engaging with our partners going forward. And again, the PID we plan to be completed next summer. If we come up with a solution that we're happy with, Caltrans will be able to take over this new bridge and consider it part of our inventory. Like I said, since we don't own the bridge, it changes everything since we don't own the bridge. It's very difficult to work on this project. Next slide, please. Well, basically that's it. That was my conclusion of my presentation. I'm willing to take your questions and comments at this time.
Okay, did any board member have a question or a comment?
This is Leonard. I have one.
Yes.
Will this bridge be built so that if something does occur with the dam, it won't matter? This thing will be high enough regardless?
Significantly, yes. That's a very good question. It matches the terrain. Yes, it's significantly higher than the existing bridge. Like on the south end itself, it's about 75 feet higher than the top of the existing bridge. So it's significantly higher, mostly to line up with the railroad geometrics and the exact hill beside it on both the north side and the south side.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? Well, Dale, I have a few. I thought I saw photos when the piers were initially constructed, that the Bureau constructed, that they were wider at the bottom, that was planning in the future to have a parallel bridge already made wider. But I didn't see that in your original schematics of the existing piers.
Yes, at the bottom, they're tapered all the way up. It's kind of good engineering practice to kind of design it that way. They were not built for a second set of lanes. Now, there at the Whiskeytown, yes, that's specifically different over there. At this bridge here, it is about almost about a third wider at the bottom than they are at the top. Maybe not quite that wide, much wider, but no, they were not set up to be adding more lanes.
So there's no stair step at the bottom that you could build onto. That's
no,
correct.
not at all.
Okay.
But we did find out that we don't need to add all the way down to the deep bottom of the existing bridge. We have done enough studies to find out that the strength of the existing piers is enough that we could add those hammerheads that I was showing you earlier. We could hang those onto the top of the existing bridge so that we could get some more width out of it. We've done enough studies to show that seems very feasible.
So from a seismic standpoint, they're strong enough that you could add the hammerhead and they're not vulnerable to collapse. Is that correct?
Well, we haven't completed our studies, just the dead weight we've looked at so far. Full seismic studies are extremely expensive, extremely complicated. That has not happened, but it can accept a dead load at the top. You're asking some good questions.
It seems that there's not a whole lot of advantage in having a highway-only bridge because somebody's still got to maintain the railroad bridge. And even if you put a bicycle path across the top, somebody's still got to maintain that. So what is the big benefit except for that Caltrans would have their own Golden Gate Bridge here?
The existing maintenance situation with the existing railroad on our bridge, we don't want to own a bridge that we have to share with the railroad. If we had, we could take this bridge that we have right now. If the railroad wasn't there, we would love it. But since we have to work with the railroad, they've been it's been very problematic over the last 80 years. If you might have seen it, for instance, when we have to work on the bridge, we have 20 to 40-minute work windows. Those are actually secret work windows. We're told right now, oh, there's a train coming, get off the tracks and get away from the tracks, for instance. And then we don't know that ahead of time. And it's very difficult to maintain this bridge with the railroad on it. And it's really been a tough, problematic situation for us.
You know, that should be a lesson that we learned after we tried to do the widening down there in Anderson with the railroad going underneath there. We had to do all kinds of, well, Caltrans had to do all kinds of things to accommodate the railroad. So I certainly understand your opinion about working with them.
Commissioner Modi, I also did the project initiation document for that project. At the time we did that one, the railroad said no problem. At the time I did my document, but when it came time to design, they said, "Oh, by the way, we said no problem. Get those columns out of my right of way." And so we had to change after we had the document done. Anyway, but railroad's on our team now, which is helpful. And but anyway, a good point. I'm glad you pointed that out.
So when the railroad was relocated with Shasta Dam, their railroad got shortened something like 8 miles in the 30+ mile relocation. And somebody just maybe needs to go to the railroad and tell them they're not totally in the driver's seat and they can park their trains for 8 hours before they get to cross. So I think maybe you need some legislation to curtail the railroad so that you don't have to build a new Golden Gate.
Good luck with that.
Understood.
I mean, the railroad could build a new bridge if they wanted it.
I think you're underestimating how much pull they seem to have at the federal level.
Oh yeah, no doubt. When we let the railroads, 150 years ago, put their spurs all over the country, all the land that they got with that thing, they've just built on their power over time. But the guys that we have working with us right now seem to be very energetic to work with us. However, they do seem to have their own power, I guess, that we don't have that they do.
I have one quick question. You mentioned about the maintenance versus and the railroad check. So the issue is not so much maintaining the roadway deck, it's that you have such difficult rules to follow, time limits, et cetera. Is that the main issue with the maintenance?
It's a little bit of both. Actually, the railroad, this is not like a light rail. This is a heavy rail situation. It tears up our deck. Actually, since 2007, I think, we've averaged about $3 million a year to maintain that existing situation. It's a real expense. There's a lot of things. It's not just working with the work windows. Their trains tear up our highway, and that's just kind of the way it is.
So if you build a new bridge and they stay where they're at, will they then get basically ownership of the bridge and then they can pay to maintain it?
That hasn't been determined, but that's the direction that the federal government would like to go. But that exact detail has not been determined.
It seems like this is sort of like a divorce, and the railroad needs to have some limitations put upon their power here, because they can't have it both ways here. And when you talk about $3 million a year because of extra maintenance, I think if you did a cost analysis of building a new Golden Gate, that $3 million would be peanuts for maintenance.
Well, in one regard, that's true.
Greg, it's like, I mean, Shasta Lake City doesn't have a railroad running through it, but with Reading, try to ask them why they get to park their trains for up to 20 minutes and block all the crossings, and why we can't make a move. And they start laughing at you and say, we'll move them already. So, they for a long time have not been required to do anything. You're absolutely right. I totally agree with you, Greg, but they don't care.
Leonard, I'll remind you that the railroad runs all the way through the middle of Shasta Lake, and we have a substandard underpass on Highway 151 that the railroad is being obstinate in getting proper clearance for that substandard railroad underpassing.
Yeah, but it doesn't block your traffic at least, so.
No, it does not.
Anyway, one last thing with which one is going to cost the least or the more? Fixing or moving?
Yeah, we're not done yet. Fixing the existing, which does not meet purpose and need, looks to be a cheaper option initially, but the maintenance of it would still, over time, the life cycle costs, it appears that the highway only bridge would be cheaper life cycle costs. Because fixing the existing does not change the way it wears out.
Maybe you could build a spring suspension on your bridge so the railroads wouldn't shake your part of the bridge.
Good point. We do that partly, a version of that happens already. And when you talked about a divorce, I go, have you been in our meetings? Because those are the exact words. Those are the exact words we've been using at some of our meetings, was exactly that.
Yeah. Well, I can see it's a fun project for Caltrans to look at the different options here.
Dale, this is Mary Rickert, and I have a quick question. What kind of lifespan does the current bridge have? I mean, at some point, is it not functional anymore?
Well, good question. It is 80 years old today, or as of right now. So it does have steel bridges. Some can last 100, 150 years. We don't think we would need to replace the entire bridge over time, but yes, it is getting on that time where we need to do some real investigation on how much longer it'll last. And whatever we do, we'll do a full investigation, and then after 2040, then whatever we do would give it another 50 to 75 years. The new highway only bridge would be, our starting point is 150 years. So if that was open, it would have 150 future years to go. And suspension bridges, again, they last quite a while, as you can imagine. But the railroad does do some damage to bridges.
What kind of time frame are you talking here? 10 years, 20 years?
In a perfect world, we'd be able to open this new bridge by 2040. It took Antlers Bridge 19 years from when the document was written till we had opening day, and we owned that bridge and we didn't have the railroad. And so this one we don't own and we have the railroad, and 2040 is 19 years from now. So a best case scenario would be 2040 to have opening day. It does take act of Congress, of course. This is again, we don't own the bridge. So it takes a federal act to do virtually anything with this situation. So yeah, best case scenario 2040, most likely within 5 years after that, if everything, if the feds come through with some federal legislation to make it happen.
Greg, I'll take you across with your walker.
Well, I'll tell you what, 2040, I'm not going to worry about it.
I'm with you there. I'm hoping that it'll be ADA compliant so they can roll my coffin across it. So
yeah, I was gonna say, we'll all be in wheelchairs if we're alive.
Hey, Dale, it does seem like there's a possibility here that your new suspension bridge or your Golden Gate Bridge should be a double decker anyway and have the highway on top and the railroad underneath it, because we could raise the lake more than 18.5 feet. So I see an 80-foot raise of Shasta Dam. Shasta Dam was designed initially that it could have a 200-foot raise. So
you sure like to stir it up, Greg.
Yeah, I can see the Indians are not going to be liking the possibility of a higher railroad and highway bridge.
You bring up a good point though. Why can't the railroad go on this new bridge? It turns out a heavy railroad, which we're not talking light rail, we're talking a regular heavy rail. They don't do well in suspension bridges of this span. It isn't really feasible for them to be at this span. It would be a world record for them as well to do a heavy railroad on a suspension bridge. Those don't work well together. But good point.
Well, not all of your options were suspension bridges.
Oh, correct.
And maybe the existing bridge, you should simply raise the railroad part, I mean, the highway part up higher above the railroad. That was a very interesting presentation. And I'm sure people have not thought about the option of building a whole new highway only Pitt River Bridge.
Again, we thank you for your comments, folks. I really appreciate the discussion, and we'll be looking for more comments as we develop our project initiation document over the next year.
Okay, thank you very much, Dale. Very interesting.
I think Greg is in the wrong line of work.
I missed that.
I think Greg is in the wrong line of work. On the bridge work there, Greg.
Well, I was a civil engineer, so
I know.
Maybe I should have been a structural engineer.
There you go.
Okay, item 16, considering changes to the board meeting dates. And we left that one item because we removed it from the consent calendar. Mr. Little.
Yeah, so this item's on the regular calendar and we talked about it at the last meeting. We've been having meetings on Tuesdays for as long as I can remember, 25 years plus. And that was really out of deference to our board member who might be coming down the hill from Bernie, and they can meet on a supervisor's day. But of course, times change and circumstances change, and trying to sandwich our meetings between board meetings and possible city council meetings with Reading later on has been a little bit problematic at times. So the board asked to consider different days of the week to meet going forward. And just looking at it quickly, Mondays and Wednesdays seem to be the sweet spots. And so I'm turning it over to the board for deliberation if they like to do this. And also we took item 5.2 off the consent calendar, but really that was just an information item. And whatever the board decides to do, we can go ahead and update the schedule.
I would make one correction here on the staff information. The city of Shasta Lake and Anderson do not meet on Thursdays. We also meet on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So Thursday would not be eliminated because of that.
Okay, it seems like there was a conflict on Thursdays. Maybe someone can tell me what that was or if something changed.
It's whatever it was Baron's fault.
Yeah, my only issue would be Wednesdays during the summer because we have mosquito serenades. So I won't be able to meet on Wednesdays in the summer.
And I agree with you, Baron. Wednesdays would be tougher for me due to other commitments I have. So Monday would be the better of the two.
And I am good on Monday.
Yeah, Monday works probably better for me. I come down on Mondays. That works.
Well, the only problem with Monday is that is one on the third Monday of the months we have RABA meetings. So we'd have to.
So don't do it the third Monday.
So yeah, just as long, I mean, we don't have a monthly RABA meeting. And the city of, on the third Monday, we have our housing library board meeting.
We could coordinate around the third Monday for sure.
Yeah, it can't be the third Monday.
Is there any benefit of having it on the Monday adjacent to the city council first and third Tuesdays for people who want to travel out of town, that it wouldn't tie up another week?
I think we just threw out the third Monday.
Well, what about the second Monday? I mean, the first and third, we have city council and board of supervisors meeting. is there a benefit to having the Monday before either the first or third Monday?
Well, again, Greg, I think we just nixed the third Monday idea because of the conflict with the city of Reading. So if anything, it would be the first, I guess.
My preference is to put it in the off Monday rather than have it back to back. Just it adds more on a busy, if you have a busy council, just space it out a little bit. That's only my comment, but
And that's my concern with a Monday as well, is we're preparing for board meetings. And as we know, those board packets can be pretty thick. Most of us, I believe, read a good portion of it. Not true of every board member, I would imagine. But anyway, so that, is there another day? I mean, is Thursday just not a possibility, or? I get Wednesdays, I get Tuesdays. That's my concern with Mondays, is Thursday. And I'll work with whatever. But is Thursday off the table?
No, I don't think Thursday's off the table.
Another
Well,
problem with Mondays is sometimes there's holidays.
That's right. But if we had the second Monday, there's fewer holidays on the second Monday of a month.
Well, Dan, haven't we been sort of moving our meetings around different weeks of the month already?
Usually when there's conflicts like the Christmas break and so on, but typically we try to have it off of the city council meeting dates. But we're flexible to do it any way that works. And it sounds like Thursdays are in fact on the table if we want to talk about Thursdays.
Well, I just wanted to say that I have several conflicts depending on which week of the month, but I've got several other duties as a supervisor with the CMSP board, which meets in Sacramento. There's some other boards that meet in Rockland and Willow, so it makes it hard, depending on when you do it.
So are we hearing that the second Tuesday of each month would be the best?
Not Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Monday.
Well, why not the second Tuesday? There's no conflict with Board of Supervisors.
No, the board's not like the cities, Greg. We don't have set Mondays and Wednesdays. We have we pick different Tuesdays of the month depending on holidays, schedules, other things.
Okay.
And in our meetings, some of them have been lasting clear till 6, 7 p.m. at night. So we just never sure how what we're going to be able to do.
Yeah, lately. I mean, Thursday is a possibility. All I would ask is that, Dan and his staff would check with me I know what my schedules are, usually several, 4 or 5 months, 6 months in advance on when these other meetings are. So I could at least give them an idea which Tuesday or which Thursdays are open.
And as you know, we do our meeting schedules with you 12 months in advance, and that just alternates 12 months. So if you see something at our next meeting that's 12 months out and you see a conflict, there would be time to change that date, or we could discuss it with you first.
so are we saying Thursdays? I think Thursday is a good idea personally. So are we saying that's open now? And
Yes. Well, except for the mosquito serenades.
That's Wednesday.
So that's Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
so you want to go with Thursday?
Fine with me.
I like Thursday.
Okay, I just know, again, I'm going to have many Thursdays that we'll have meetings on them.
So, but we can work around your schedule, Leonard, can't we?
Yeah, no, if you're willing to do that, yes, I can.
Absolutely.
I mean, again, I've got a couple of them, but I certainly know in advance when they're going to be. So, and they're not every month either, so that helps.
Yeah.
And I suppose the time of day would be on the table as well. So Leonard, I don't know if those meetings gravitate to mornings or evenings.
Well, actually, one's at 10:30 in the morning in Sacramento, and the other one's at 3 o'clock, and usually it's like in Williams or Willow, so it runs till 5. So But again, the good part is it's not every month, so it gives a lot of open Thursdays, I think.
Well, I think it seems like 3 o'clock. Well, we usually get under 2 hours. I'm leaving it at 3 o'clock if other people think that's okay.
And Al Kathy just made a comment. I don't know if you noticed it pop up. He said planning commission meetings are on Thursday afternoon. Tuesday, I think the 3rd.
Yeah, and that would be a problem if we want public works or planning participation at our meetings.
But it is once a month, though. Hey, Al, if it must be there listening, which Thursday of the month does it change? Do you know? Okay, it says you will have to check.
And when are city planning
When do
commission
you want to
meetings?
start?
Does anyone know the city planning commission meeting schedules?
I believe they're on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Ours are on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, okay.
I think Anderson as well is on the second Tuesday of the month.
When do you plan to try to do this new schedule, Dan?
You know, we could do what we did for this meeting and just book something for October after we contact you to see what works. And for that matter, we can do it each time. There wouldn't be as much continuity, but then again, we post the meeting schedules 12 months in advance and hopefully wouldn't have to change them too much once they're set. So,
Well,
so we'd like to do it immediately.
Let me offer this up to the group. It sounds like Thursday might be a day that people can do. Why don't we tentatively suggest that we do something like that? Let me go check my schedules and stuff, get back with you and see if that can help you line up something in October that works for you and then going forward from that.
Yes, that would work.
Okay, is that enough, Dan?
Yes, so we will pick a date. Right now, the meeting was the 12th of October, so we probably plan for that same week, just as a heads up, but we'll be getting a hold of you. So we'd be looking at October 14th for our next meeting date.
Okay, moving on to 17. Any suggestion topics for future meetings? I hear none, so then we are on 18 and adjourned.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good week, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.